Canada backs Palestine, and Trump hits back. Tariffs, threats, and a trade war fueled by foreign policy. As allies recognize a Palestinian state, Washington isolates, Gaza suffers. This is VERTEX, and behind it all, one question: is the US losing its grip on the global consensus? US President Donald Trump intensified his trade war with Canada a day ahead of his August 1st deadline for a tariff agreement. Trump posted on Truth Social, saying it would be very hard to make a deal with Canada after it gave its support to Palestinian statehood.
Wow! Canada has just announced that it is backing statehood for Palestine. That will make it very hard for us to make a trade deal with them. Oh, Canada!
Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney's office did not respond to Trump's statement at the time this report was produced. Carney announced on July 30th that Canada is planning to recognise the state of Palestine at a meeting of the United Nations in September, following France and Britain in recognising a Palestinian state.
For the reasons I cited earlier, Canada intends to recognise the state of Palestine at the 80th session of the United Nations General Assembly in September 2025. This intention is predicated on the Palestinian Authority's commitment to much-needed reform, including commitments by the Palestinian Authority's President Abbas to fundamentally reform its governance, to hold general elections in 2026 in which Hamas can play no part, and to demilitarize the Palestinian state. Canada will increase its efforts in supporting strong democratic governance in Palestine and the contributions of its people to a more peaceful and hopeful future. I spoke today with President Abbas at length to reaffirm his commitment. Canada reiterates that Hamas must immediately release all hostages taken in their horrific terrorist attack of October 7th, that Hamas must disarm, and that Hamas must play no role in the future governance of Palestine.
In announcing the decision, Carney spoke of the reality on the ground, including starvation in Gaza.
Des dizaines de milliers de Palestiniens.
Tens of thousands of Palestinians have been killed, and thousands more are on the brink of famine. Canada condemns the fact that the Israeli government has allowed the catastrophe to worsen in Gaza. As a founding member of the United Nations and NATO, Canada is among the first to defend peace and security in the world. We have the duty to uphold human rights and promote peace and security both domestically and abroad.
However, Israel and its closest ally, the US, both rejected Carney's statements. Trump is set to impose a 35% tariff on all Canadian goods not covered by the US-Mexico-Canada trade agreement if the two countries do not reach an agreement by the deadline. Carney's office did not immediately respond to a request for comment on Trump's post, but his office earlier stated,
"The trade negotiations with the US, as you know, we're seeking the best deal for Canadians. We have not yet reached that deal. Negotiations will continue until we do. Minister LeBlanc and senior officials will remain in Washington in pursuit of that goal." Look, these are complex, they're comprehensive, they're constructive negotiations with the Americans are ongoing. It's possible that they may not conclude by the 1st of August. But we'll see. The team's there. We're working hard. Conversations today, myself. So we'll see. There are, and the specific aspect of the question included a reference to the European Union deal, and could our accord with the United States include commitments on investments and other aspects? And I just observed that there are many areas for cooperation between Canada and the United States, including defense spending, security spending, investments, which is one of the reasons why we're having this broader discussion.
Canada bought $349.4 billion of American goods last year and exported $412.7 billion, making it the second largest US trading partner after Mexico. Canada is also the top supplier of steel and aluminium to the United States and faces tariffs on both metals as well as on vehicle exports. Last month, Carney's government scrapped a planned digital services tax targeting US technology firms after Trump abruptly called off trade talks, saying the tax was a blatant attack. As Canada joins France and the UK in announcing plans to recognise a Palestinian state, the US is standing firmly with Israel. Of all history's declarations about the Middle East, one that may be less prominent in the global collective memory was in Tokyo in November 2023. Then, US Secretary of State Antony Blinken laid out a series of principles for the day after the war in Gaza at a meeting of the G7, a group of the world's most powerful countries. He travelled there from Tel Aviv after meeting Israel's leadership a month after the Hamas attacks on October 7th, during the ensuing Israeli offensive on Gaza. Back in November 2023, then Secretary of State Antony Blinken outlined principles for what he called the day after the Gaza war. No forcible displacement of Palestinians. No Israeli reoccupation of Gaza after the war ends. No attempt to blockade or besiege Gaza. A future governance that must be Palestinian-led. No role for Hamas. But under Trump's second term, those principles have all but vanished. The conference made headlines as France, then the UK, committed to recognising a Palestinian state later this year under certain conditions. Now, Canada followed suit. But the Trump administration boycotted the UN Two-State Solution Conference, viewing it as anti-Israel. On July 28th, US State Department spokesperson Tammy Bruce derided the conference as a publicity stunt.
This is a publicity stunt that comes in the middle of delicate diplomatic efforts to end the conflict. The United States will not participate in this insult, but will continue to lead real-world efforts to end the fighting and deliver a permanent peace.
Now, a chasm has opened up between the US and its traditional allies on the future of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. This raises a question. Does the Trump administration have a vision for the future governance of Gaza and longer-term permanent peace? Meanwhile, the Europeans are stepping up. France, the UK, and now Canada have committed to recognizing a Palestinian state, breaking from the long-held norm of waiting for Israeli-Palestinian negotiations to conclude first. Canadian PM Mark Carney reaffirmed the United States' central role in resolving conflicts in the Middle East, even as Washington boycotts renewed international efforts to recognize Palestinian statehood.
The United States is the essential partner in peace in the Middle East, and in virtually in many parts of the world. And we've seen that demonstrated. First point. Second point is that the president does take a direct interest in resolving conflicts, and as has with respect to a broader set of developments in the Middle East. And so again, the United States, this president, will play and continue to play a central role. Others have responsibilities. Canada included.
But the Trump administration isn't just absent. It appears to be aligning its Gaza vision with that of Benjamin Netanyahu. In February 2025, Trump floated a controversial plan to rebuild Gaza into a Middle East Riviera, one that involved the forced displacement of Palestinians. The administration later backpedaled, calling it voluntary, but Arab nations, including Saudi Arabia, firmly rejected it. Since then, the administration has largely gone silent on Gaza's future. When pressed during a recent Netanyahu visit, Trump deferred to the Israeli leader. Netanyahu now controls 2/3 of Gaza and rejects any role for the Palestinian Authority, pushing instead for permanent military occupation and settlement expansion. Meanwhile, reports from international agencies warn of famine, disease, and militarized aid control. The UK's Foreign Secretary David Lammy called the images of starving children being shot at deeply offensive. Without a coherent US vision, the vacuum is being filled by Europe and the Gulf. They're backing Palestinian Authority-led governance, urgent aid, and renewed two-state diplomacy. But their path forward without US support is an uphill battle. For now, the superpower seat remains empty.